My mother-in-law handed me a household budget envelope every month for 4 years. I found out last week it was the interest on my own inheritance she'd been managing without my knowledge. The envelope was always the same. A standard white business envelope, my name written on the front in Diane's neat looping cursive. Always left on the kitchen counter on the first of the month. Always sealed, always containing the same amount. $1,200 in cash. She called it a household budget. She said it with such practiced warmth, such easy generosity, that I never once thought to question the framing. I thought she was helping us. I thought she was being kind. I thought for 4 years that I was lucky to have married into a family that looked after their own. I was wrong about almost everything. My name is Nora Whitfield. I'm 34 years old, and until 11 days ago, I would have described my life as quiet, steady, and genuinely good. I met my husband James at a university alumni event in Portland when I was 26. He was tall and careful with his words, the kind of man who listened when you talked and remembered things you mentioned once in passing. We dated for 2 years. We got married in a small ceremony in the Willamette Valley with 40 people, and a reception on a vineyard patio, and dancing that lasted until the staff started stacking chairs around us. I was happy. I was, as far as I knew, happy. James's mother, Diane Whitfield, had been widowed 6 years before we met. Her husband, Robert, had died of a cardiac event at 61, leaving behind a paid-off house in Lake Oswego, a comfortable life insurance policy, and, I would eventually learn, a substantial investment portfolio he'd built over 30 years in commercial real estate consulting. Diane was gracious and composed, and had strong opinions about flower arrangements, and very little tolerance for ambiguity. She called James every Sunday at 7 p.m. Without fail, never late, never early, as if the call were itself a kind of discipline. She was generous in the way that makes you feel sometimes like the generosity has fine print. I had a small inheritance of my own. My grandfather, Walter Hess, had died when I was 23, leaving me a trust funded by the sale of his machine parts manufacturing business in Ohio. I didn't know the exact value, because I had never needed to. Grandpa Walter had set it up quietly, as he did most things. He had named my mother as the initial trustee until I turned 30, at which point management was supposed to transfer to a financial institution of my choosing. My mother died of pancreatic cancer when I was 28. She died fast, the way the disease sometimes takes people, 3 months from diagnosis to the end, and in the fog of that grief, I had not thought carefully about the trust. I had not asked who was managing it. I had not confirmed the transfer had happened. I had assumed, because assuming was easier than asking, that everything was in order. I was wrong about that, too. The first time I met Diane, James brought me to her house for Sunday dinner. She had made pot roast and a lemon tart and had set the table with cloth napkins. She looked at me the way women like her look at women like me when the son they raise brings someone home. Measuring, careful, not unkind, but taking inventory. She asked me about my work. I was in nonprofit communications at the time, grant writing and donor relations for a children's literacy organization. She said that sounded meaningful, which was the polite version of saying it sounded underpaid. She wasn't wrong. It was underpaid. After James and I married and bought our house in Southeast Portland, a 3-bedroom craftsman that needed more work than we'd admitted to ourselves when we made the offer, Diane started coming by regularly. She had opinions about the kitchen renovation and helpful suggestions about the bathroom tile, and an ongoing relationship with a contractor named Gary, whom she trusted implicitly and whom she inserted into our renovation process with such smooth confidence that by the time I understood he was becoming our primary contractor, the decision had already been made. Gary did good work. I told myself it didn't matter how he'd ended up there.